What is up, you guys? Welcome to episode 42. I'm Jennie O'Connor, and I help multi-passionate creatives slay imposter syndrome so they can grow their influence and self-promote with grace. Let me ask you a question. Are you working a job that brings you no satisfaction while you look over your shoulder at all the things you wish you could be doing that truly light you up? Do you dream of somehow combining all of your loves into a venture that will make you actual money? I've created the multi-passionate master plan that will help you do just that. And I am launching the maiden voyage of this 6-week group coaching program in the first quarter of this year. If you are committed to making 2022 the year that you stop working at a job you hate and finally find the career love of your life, head on over to jennyeoconnor.com/masterplan and jump on the wait list. This step is important, you guys, because folks on the waitlist will receive exclusive access to the course and 6 weeks of live coaching for more than 40% off. So if you miss out on being notified when I open the doors, you will miss out on getting all of the value that I so lovingly packed into the multi-passionate master plan for a literal steal. So go jump on the list today. So today I'm going to talk about something that I think happens to be a superpower of multi-passionate souls. I've touched a little bit on this in previous episodes, and Allison Alexander and I discussed it in our interview in episode 14. And that subject is curiosity. I am always amazed when I come across someone who talks about being bored. The example that comes to mind right away is when we were first locked down in 2020 in March, and a friend of mine reached out to me and he was like, "Oh my God, I'm so bored." And I remember sort of thinking to myself, like, what must that even be like? Like, what does that even look like? I can't even understand it at all. And it's because I have the ability to imagine myself in all kinds of different scenarios. Like, you hear me talk about zombie apocalypses all the time. And one of the scenarios that I, like, for whatever reason, regularly envision myself in is if I were in prison. Like, how would I spend my time? And I think I would read like every single book I could possibly get my hands on, and I would work out constantly. So I would be in amazing physical shape and my mind would be fucking on point. And I don't know why. I always think about prison, but I wouldn't be bored. And I think that, you know, of all of the circumstances in which we might ever have a right to say, God, I'm so bored, a prison would be one of those circumstances. Or like, what about being stranded on a deserted island? Like, I would find animals to hunt or seeds to plant so I could grow food, or a way to filter ocean water, or I wouldn't be bored. So I think if you're multi-passionate, you're probably going to relate to this quite a bit. And it's because we're curious. Like, literally anything new and sparkly and unexplored is intriguing and exciting and a rabbit hole that we want to go down. But the problem is, and the reason that I wanted to discuss this today, because I think for a lot of us, we often see our curiosity as more of an irritation than a superpower. So I wanted to talk about all of the reasons, and there are so many, why this is something you should flaunt and be proud of and exercise as often as you can, rather than seeing it as something you should like sort of pack away and try to ignore because it's getting in the way of you getting shit done. Because we're always, as multi-passionate people, in pursuit of that ever elusive focus so we can move the needle forward on our biggest projects, right? And curiosity feels like it sort of gets in the way of that. But it really, really, truly is something to be celebrated. And I think it's important to talk about why and how you can even leverage curiosity as a strength that will make you, we'll talk about it. A lot of things, but use it to succeed in ways you might otherwise not have thought of. So, we're all curious as children. Even my friend who told me during the pandemic that he was so bored was a curious child. We are born curious, and for the first few years of our life, most of our experiences are new and like delightful because of their novelty. When we're young, we are driven by an innate urge to investigate the world. But get this, you guys, by the time we reach first grade, that has completely changed. Beginning at age 6 and continuing until we get into college, the average student asks only one question per class per month. That's compared to 107 questions per hour on average from kids aged 14 months to 5 years, which is hilarious and totally makes me understand why parents drink so much wine. Like, 107 questions in an hour is a lot of questions. And isn't that nuts, you guys? That one question per class per month by the time we're 6. Like, where does it go, right? So somewhere between having our questions met with irritation by our drunk parents and getting our requests to explore things, that dark crawl space, for example, denied because it might be dangerous or dirty or filled with poisonous spiders, we learn that curiosity isn't always appreciated and sometimes can be downright dangerous. So things like because I said so or because it's dangerous and other seemingly harmless statements tamp down our impulse to explore. So that same study that I just quoted with the 107 questions an hour found teachers interrupting students who were asking questions by saying things like, no questions right now, it's time for learning. Yikes. Like, oh my God, let's educate teachers not to say things like that. So essentially, if it elicits negative responses from teachers and administrators and the higher ups, high-performing students are going to stop asking questions. It just is what it is. So even consider the phrase, curiosity killed the cat. Like, what is that even trying to teach us? It sounds to me like it's advocating a life full of curiosity's opposite, which is indifference. Yuck. Indifference is boring. F that. It's not for you. So here is why you should flex your curiosity all day, every day. We'll start with the most obvious reason. An inquiring mind is central to innovation and creativity. Without curiosity, we would never have known the innovations of Steve Jobs or Nikola Tesla, who may or may not have invented a time machine, if you believe the conspiracy theories. I do. The most successful people throughout history have questioned everything. This explains all entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs see opportunity where other people just see problems, because while those people are complaining, entrepreneurs are asking why. Why the heck doesn't this annoying product or service work as well as it should? Is there a better way? Can I make money off of it? So if you have entrepreneurial aspirations, curiosity is quite literally one of your superpowers. Being curious about industries, people, different kinds of jobs will make you alert for professional opportunities. But beyond that, there are a bunch of other reasons why you should celebrate your shiny object syndrome rather than trying to squash it. So here they are. Curiosity is a survival mechanism. Our environment is constantly changing, right? So as we explore the world around us, we learn how to be vigilant and adaptable. Basically, we learn how to thrive. So while the act of questioning teaches us lessons about danger, it also encourages the perseverance to find new and better ways of doing things, like the entrepreneurs who are like, why is this thing broken and how can I fix it? Not to mention, think about how critical being adaptable has been in the last 2 years. If ever there were an example, an illustration of how important asking questions about how to pivot and adapt and improve, it was the last 2 years. So herein is a reason for celebrating this gift. Curiosity also feels good. Scientists have discovered that the brain releases dopamine when it makes new discoveries, which results in higher levels of positive emotions and lower anxiety and increased personal fulfillment. So that probably explains why multi-potentialites all seem to be addicted to learning. We get off on the dopamine kick. Makes sense. Curiosity also fosters self-awareness. So actively thinking about what you don't know and what inspires you requires you to question your individual value system and your motivations. So doing this suspends your convictions, the things that you think you know or that you learned from your parental units and never questioned. And it also opens your eyes to new pathways. It opens your mind. It is often said that the questions that make you the most uncomfortable are the most necessary. So admitting what you don't know or that you might be wrong takes a lot of humility, but curious people care more about learning than they do about looking smart. And as multi-potentialites, if we're pros at anything, it's being beginners. So in other words, having the humility to not know anything in some cases. So in the workplace, this means looking at a broader array of options for innovation or new marketing angles or solutions for problems. And a team that is like thoroughly stuck in being right will stagnate versus the ones that just keep asking and iterating and asking more questions. Curious people seek surprise. Now, you might have a love-hate relationship with surprise, but the truth is when we don't have enough of it, we get bored and disengaged with life. While we might feel the most comfortable when things are certain, we feel the most alive when they're not. Curious people welcome surprise in their lives. They try new foods, they talk to a stranger, or they ask a question that they've never asked before. Welcoming surprise is basically just asking yourself, how alive do I want to feel? And this goes hand in hand with my next point. Curiosity enhances social bonding. Curious people connect with others, again, including strangers, on a far deeper level. They ask questions and they listen. They really listen instead of just waiting for their turn to speak. And how refreshing is that? In this day and age, everyone is always just waiting for their chance to talk. So to meet someone who really feels like invested in the listening is so like, it's a moment to deeply connect. So curious people, therefore, are more empathetic. They're better able to understand and accept different viewpoints. A study was done where participants asked and answered personal and emotional questions that got increasingly deeper throughout the hour. And as I just explained, the participants whose partners listened with genuine curiosity, they reported a greater feeling of closeness and even attraction, whether that's platonic or otherwise. They felt more of that than the people who were in partnerships where they weren't really engaged in listening. Also, and this is pretty important, curious people are more inclined to listen without judgment because they're learning. They're not trying to be better than. And so naturally, this makes them more approachable. So if you just want to generally be better at meeting people and engaging socially, being curious is the way to do that. Also, curious people tend to be fully present, not on their cell phones, which is also refreshing. This one is especially for my multi-potentialites out there. Curious people learn better. And it's because we're hungry for knowledge. So that means we naturally broaden our horizons. But it's interesting because research shows that curious people also retain information better. So if your curiosity is engaged, you will not only better remember the subject that you're studying, you'll also absorb more peripheral information, which is stuff that's associated but not directly related to that topic that you sort of pick up while you're reading incidentally, and you won't even be conscious of it. It makes perfect sense in my mind if curious people are always learning and multi-potentialites are always learning. We're always forming new neural pathways. That's that neuroplasticity coming into play, that our brains are practiced at it, so they're better at it. We are more of a sponge for learning new stuff than people who don't engage in the act of curiosity on a regular basis. So because of this ability to retain information, curious people do better in academics and at work, which makes sense. One study even showed that straight up intelligence was equally predictive of achieving success as curiosity paired with the ability to work hard. So that's good news for anyone who isn't keen on higher education or doesn't have an advanced degree or can't afford to go back to school right now, because those things don't actually matter if you have insatiable curiosity and a good work ethic, which is pretty cool. So now what? You probably knew coming into this episode that you are inherently curious. If you are multi-passionate, which would be why you're listening to my show, you know this about yourself. You probably believe that you're over-curious, that it's not always such a good thing, but now you know all the reasons why you should celebrate it and indulge in it all the time. But I'm going to encourage you to do an exercise because I have come to realize this is one of the most helpful things that I have done for myself ever, in terms of helping me to focus on what matters. And that seems to be the one thing we can universally agree we're all trying to get better at. You've heard me talk about Perry Knoppert in a bunch of episodes. He's my friend who started the octopus movement for other multi-potentialites. And he and I agree that it is the act of indulging in our curiosities, all of them, that has this strange counterintuitive ability to help us focus on the projects that we need and want to get done. So I would suggest that you start by doing a brain dump. Sit down with a journal or a notebook and write down everything, literally everything, that has ever interested you, even for a brief moment, even in the past. Everything that interests you now, currently, things that might interest you in the future, but you haven't had a chance to go down that rabbit hole yet. And then even things that you want to do once, and probably that will satisfy you and you'll not need to do it again. But just anything you can think of that is a shiny object that could pull you off course if you were trying to focus on something. Write it down on this list. Try to make the list exhaustive. So if it takes you a couple days to compile all of the things, that's cool. There's something anxiety producing about having these things exist in the ether or just in the folds of your multi-passionate brain. And so when you capture them on paper, there's this feeling of sort of calm that occurs as a result, because the idea is now memorialized somewhere. It's not going anywhere. You won't forget about it. It won't get lost. And this is the same science behind why you need to make written or digital to-do lists instead of just trying to remember everything you have to do, which is totally crazy making. So just offload all of that stuff that's in your brain and free up your brain to do more important work. So then, once you have your list compiled, I invite you to find the 2 or 3 items on there that are the most compelling and exciting to you, and begin indulging in some part of them right now, today, this week, this weekend, whenever you can carve out a little bit of extra time. Don't watch Netflix. Do this instead. And these things might not be money making, and they might not be something you do more than once, but if they're calling to you, if they are tugging at your heart in a significant way, do not deny yourself that urge. Go play. Play with that idea. It's going to enhance your creativity, if nothing else, and that can never be a bad thing. And slowly, you can start crossing things off this list as I have done this, or I have started this. And then you can go to the next thing that has that same kind of magnetism for you. Because as we all know, things sort of lose their luster after a while. So once it has, consider that thing kind of done. Go on to the next thing that's tugging at you. And obviously you'll add to this list as time passes, and that's cool too. But tell yourself right now that you have permission to do literally everything on this list. At some point between now and the day that you die, you will do all of these things. Something about the act of giving yourself permission, rather than telling yourself, I can't do that. That doesn't make money. That's distracting me from my main focus. I don't have time. My family will call me crazy. Throw out all of those old stories that you have told yourself about why you can't allow yourself to do the things calling to your heart. Throw them out the window and just start doing them. Because I promise you, and this is what Perry and I have both realized, is that the moment that you give yourself permission to do this stuff, you can focus better on the thing that you need to do right now. It's no longer critical to stop what you're doing and go down a rabbit hole about whether or not penguins have knees. You don't need to Google it right now because you can put it on the list and you can Google it at any other time when you are not involved in this super important task that you're doing right this very second. And it's weird. It's counterintuitive. The notion of making a gigantic list with 1,000 things on it that you want to do or touch or play with at some point in your life, the fact that that can make you more focused and less overwhelmed does not seem to follow logic. I get that, but you guys, it works. Try it and let me know what you find out. And hopefully this will let you touch your joy more often and celebrate your curiosity as the superpower that it is, and focus on your most important projects and get on out there and do the thing, because that is my wish for you. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. If you found this content valuable enough to warrant a tip, you can show your appreciation by visiting buymeacoffee.com/Jennie O'Connor. You can also support the show by rating and reviewing. I will love you forever if you take a quick minute or so to show me some love that way too. Also, don't forget to go drop your name on the waitlist for my new program, the Multi-Passionate Master Plan. I am sincerely hoping to change a few lives with this course, and I would love for yours to be one of them. You can do that at JennieO'Connor.com/masterplan. So that's it for today. You guys are the best. Be good, stay awesome, and I will see you in the next episode.